So this here is Penny Arcade's on the Rain Slick Precipice of Darkness 3. I'm actually playing a DLC for it. It's called Beginning to the End. So Beginning to the End is its own standalone story. It's the second DLC released. The first one was an expansion of the main story. This here DLC was made as a result of the plot holes that were made in the third game, which occurred because of the development switch between the first two games and the last two games. Basically what happened is when Hothead Games made the games, the first two, they included a player character which interacted in the story. When Zeboyd Games took over, whether or not it was because of a request of Penny Arcade themselves, or they just decided it as a developer, they removed the player character, but they didn't make any mention of him, or you rather, or what happened to the player character. They just removed him from the game. So they kind of made this to explain what happened to the player character. Another thing they do in this DLC is they kind of explain some actions that Taiko has in the fourth game. So it's a 16-minute game here. I don't really have many speed techs in this game. The biggest speed tech or speed trick, I guess, is something I've displayed in this fight and in the last one. It's the turn order. So battle animations in this game are super long. So in fights where I can eliminate a character from the turn order before they act, I do so. It basically saves their animation, which is actually super important in Penny Arcade 3. If this were the fourth game, saving that turn wouldn't be as significant because you can speed up the battle animation in the fourth game by about 4 times the speed, whereas in this one you cannot. That's one thing Penny Arcade 4 has over this game, whereas this game does have something over Penny Arcade 4 in the sense that in Penny Arcade 4 you cannot skip the opening cutscene. So I have to sit through 1 minute 54 and a half seconds to my first interaction with the game every single time, whereas in this game I don't even know what the opening cutscene's length is because I've never had to sit through it. The opening cutscene length in Penny Arcade 3 is as long as it takes me to mash the A button. So this here is a awkward fight because of the stun patterns of the spitballs. Sometimes they'll both stun at once, sometimes they won't, and it actually affects the fight depending on how they do it. I just use one of Taiko's most powerful moves. It's called Mana Spigot. Basically how the MP in this game works is everybody gets 1 MP every turn. However, with this, Taiko actually gets 2 every turn. Which means he can use very strong moves every turn. So this is the player character here. Now the player character is, he's in a potato sack right now because of how Hothead Games did it, is the player character was actually pretty customizable. So in order to circumvent that entire ordeal, they just put him in a potato sack. Or you, or her, or... I say he, I had a male character, sue me. So, anyway, the player character is pretty weak at the beginning. Dude, Big Willie, how's it going, buddy? I'm going to try and come back to Orid's streams as soon as I can, okay, buddy? Or your streams, or just anybody's. Ugh. So the player character is actually really weak right now. He gains strength later on in, he gets a little stronger in the second half of the split, but he actually gains a lot of strength in the third split. But right now he's pretty useless, especially in this fight where he is almost useless. I have him do 2 attacks to make up for the difference that it would take Gabe to make 1 spell later on. And then I have him wait because they are weak to magic and I have none of it. And he is super strong to physicals. So what makes him weak right now is just a general lack of abilities and also a weak auto attack. But yeah, the other two party members make up for it for now. So, Gabe has some pretty powerful moves. You've seen me use Brute Punch, which is just all around strong first punch, or sorry, Sucker Punch or First Blood. I don't remember what it's called. I just looked, it's First Blood. I actually shouldn't have been in that menu. I made a mistake, whatever. So First Blood does more damage on the first turn. He also has, it's another move I'm about to get right now. I believe I actually just learned it in that fight, and I'm going to use it first time here. It's called Finish 'em. So basically what it does is it does more damage if it's used on the last target in a fight, which it will be used. So another strong move that's just general in this game is Overkill on Tycho. So it does more damage based on how much MP he has left. It also helps that it's super effective on this particular enemy. I wasted a little bit of time because I actually forgot to Rig Slash him, but it's minor. So this item here, it's going to come into play a little later on. It's part of what makes the player character so strong. As well, this is pretty much, by the way, the second half of the split is here already. So he just got a very powerful move, which is called, well, it's actually just an upgrade to his previous move. It's called Rick Whirlwind. So it's an AoE attack, obviously, but now he gets AoE bleed on everybody instead of just adding bleed to one target, which is pretty significant because it means everybody on the other team takes damage every turn. So now I'm just going to try and finish up this fight as quickly as possible, or rather I'm going to try and finish up the first one as quickly as possible. That way I can quickly kill the lower one. Using Overkill and finish him again. Finish him actually almost irrelevant. Oh, I'm glad I had player character attack because Gabe died. This is why you always keep an extra attack on the board. So I'm about to buy an item. You can only buy items for Gabe and Tycho. The reason I choose to give it to Gabe is because Gabe's item increases 2 stats, and it increases both of them significantly. One of them is his physical damage, whereas Tycho's weapon increases all of his stats minorly. And in this speedrun, I don't need overall defensive purposes. I need straight up damage, which makes Gabe the better target for that. Oh wow. So another cool thing about this that I haven't really mentioned yet is how the battles work, and basically how that is. What I'm trying to say, rather, is every turn, every round that goes through, the enemies increase in strength. So if an enemy would do, or have an attack ratio of 10, on the next turn they would be 11, and so on. They gain basically 10% each time. So I'm going into the boss of the second split, and I'm nearing the end of the game here. So he starts off poisoned, so he'll take 300 damage every turn. I add bleed, so he'll take 339 each turn. And now basically I am just going to cast spells on it and hit it with things. Oof. I am glad I didn't have enough mana for Overkill, because that would have been bad. Being poisoned in this fight is insignificant because he doesn't do enough damage to kill me. Getting into the last actions here, and then we'll progress to the third stage. I split a little bit early, but it doesn't matter. I would have gotten a gold anyway. And then I do just terrible movement there. So this is where having the player character really makes him super useful. So the item I equipped earlier that I didn't really mention, it was called a Talisman. So basically what it does is it makes you start with 2 MP, which I've been doing since I equipped it, but I haven't really had the ability to make use of it because I have no good abilities up until now. I just recently learned an ability called Garden of Dangerous Bees or something of the sort. I've had an ability called Early Harvest most of the game, but I've had no real use of it. So basically what Garden of Dangerous Bee does is it calls in a weak AoE every turn spell on the enemies. What Early Harvest does is it gives me, it basically calls it in early and supercharged, so it does significantly more damage. The reason why this is so strong is because it has the ability to pretty much 1 round or 2 round most of the enemies in this area. I did screw up a little bit in that last section. Now, the reason the Talismans is so important is because if I didn't have the mana to immediately use it round 2, which is the quickest I could use it, the fights would go on significantly longer and it would be a lot less useful. Being able to call it in as soon as physically possible makes all of the fights a lot faster. If I didn't have the ability to call it in round 2, it actually would be faster to not use him, although it would take a lot of time because of all the animations that would go through. Slow menuing, because I scrolled all the way down, I don't know why I did that. So we're nearing the end of the game here. There's only really 2 fights left. There's this next fight, and then the walk to the final boss. This next fight is annoying because it gets rather difficult to properly do the menu, which I haven't been doing anyway because I'm bad, but it adds the last move that I get in this run, which is actually the most important fight of the final boss, but it gets in the way and I sometimes use it, or start to use it. Oh wow. Dang, that wasted time. I'm bad. I should have RTF'd him instead of full autoed, that was my mistake. So anyway, here it is, the final boss. Bad is bad. Alright, so in this fight, Tycho's actually significantly weakened. So what I actually do here is instead of using his magic, which would relatively be strong in any other case, he's actually not better off doing so. So I instead opt to just have him auto-attack, and at the end I'm gonna have him cast full auto. Basically, or sorry, not full auto, overkill. Basically what that does is it'll give me significant damage later on in the fight, and consistent damage at the beginning of the fight. Tried to use a potion. What's wrong with me? Oh, until he gets killed, that's fine. I actually split late. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'll retime that.